Can microbursts of mindfulness help us avoid burnout and control our anxiety? I'm Chester Elton, and this is my dear friend and co-author, Adrian Gostick.
Well, thank you, Jess. Yeah, our guest today has amassed an impressive body of scientific research and clinical experience that says slowing our minds down for even just a few minutes a day can have an amazing impact on our mental and physical health. Well, as always, we hope the time you spend with us today will help remove the stigma of anxiety and mental health in the workplace and your personal life.
And with us is our new friend, Michael Amster, MD, a physician and researcher, writer, and teacher at the UC Berkeley Greater Good Science Center. He's the founding director of the Pain Management Department at Santa Cruz Community Health. A practitioner of meditation for over 30 years, he is also a certified yoga and meditation teacher. He splits his time between clinical work, research on awe, teaching mindfulness, and leading awe-inspiring retreats around the world. His new book from Hachette is The Power of Awe. Welcome to the show, Michael. We're delighted to have you here today.
Good morning, Chester and Adrian. It's great to meet you guys. Thank you so much for the work you do out there. I'm big fans of you guys, and it's really a treat to be here.
Well, we're thrilled too. Love this title, The Power of Awe. So first off, give us the foundation. So what is awe, and why is it as powerful as you're saying?
Great. Yeah. So I've been studying the emotion of awe for the last 4 years, and from my research as well as the last 20 years of other people's research, we have determined that awe is the most powerful of all positive emotions. So first we got to define, well, what is awe, right? And if you think for a moment about a moment of awe you've had before, for most people, it's going to be a moment of extraordinary awe. Maybe standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon, going to Yosemite, watching the birth of your child. Those are all these big life-changing moments. But what's really unique about our research and what our book is based upon is a technique that we've developed called the awe method. We actually use the word awe, A-W-E, as a 3-step process to experience moments of awe in the ordinary. So what is awe? Well, there's 2 parts that make awe a special emotion in terms of how we define it as a scientist. First of all, awe gives us a sense of vastness. So if you think about when you've had those big moments of awe, you feel like you're bigger than you were before that moment. It makes you expand and feel like you're part of something bigger, maybe connected to the universe or God or some type of consciousness. And then the second part is that it changes our way in which we view the world. We call that cognitive accommodation. It really shifts our level of consciousness and we start to see things in a new way.
That's really interesting. You know, I think we can all relate to your concept there of the Grand Canyon, or, you know, gazing up at the heavens on a cloudless night and moonless night. Tell us about the research and how you discovered that. You said our research found that it was the most powerful of all the emotions. Flesh out that research for us and how you got there.
Yeah, sure. So myself, as well as my co-author, Jake, we've both been mindfulness teachers for a number of years. And we have always found that it's so hard for people to develop a regular mindfulness practice. Finding even 5 minutes a day is a struggle for people. And often they end up berating themselves because they end up failing and even trying to do 5 minutes a day. So we had this idea of coming up with micro mindfulness practices that you can take on the road and experience all throughout your day. Jake lives in Hawaii, and I flew out to Hawaii about 4 years ago. And our goal was to discover what would be that ideal brief mindfulness practice. And of course, you can all know that Hawaii is filled with extraordinary awe. You know, there's awe everywhere. But it actually wasn't out in the nature of Hawaii that we had this sort of what we call an awe epiphany. It was actually in Jake's kitchen. I was making him and his wife pancakes. And I poured batter, and I stood there and watched the liquid batter turn into a solid. And in that moment, I actually had this really profound, what one might call an orgasmic moment, where I felt chills and tingles in my body, being hyper aware and present. My mind stopped racing, and I was fully present and just felt connected to something vast and greater than myself. And what we discovered is it's about finding awe in these ordinary moments. Our whole lives are filled with moments of this extraordinary beauty, wonder, miracles all around us to be appreciative of. And I had never spent time to watch pancakes turn from a liquid to solid. Most of us were busy making sausage or orange juice and making coffee. Like, we don't spend the time to just be present with what is right in front of us. So from that, we created what is called the AWE method, and it's this 3-step process. And it takes 5 to 15 seconds to do. Jake and I both did pilot studies with our respective patients. And then we presented our initial data to Dacher Keltner, who is the founder of the Greater Good Science Center at UC Berkeley. And he's really the granddaddy of AWE research. He really started the field back in 2003. And he told me when I presented the data, he's like, you know what, Michael, this is the future of mindfulness. Well, you guys have come on to something really big, because all the research before ours was on extraordinary awe. It was on those big Grand Canyon moments, and they were trying to stimulate those experiences for people using virtual reality, because you can't go to the Grand Canyon every day or go, to your favorite rock concert and be inspired and have an awe moment. And what we did was discover ways to have awe in the ordinary through our technique. So we did 2 pretty large, robust studies at the height of the pandemic. We had one with 200 doctors and nurses that were on the front lines, super stressed out. The studies commenced in June of 2020. So if you think back to that time, the race riots were going on. It was a really tough time. Over 50% of people were struggling with depression. And then we also had a second group of study participants that were primary care patients, 300 patients. And so what we found, and I'll just briefly touch on our results, is we saw just incredible statistical significance of our data. For example, we saw a 35% reduction in depression in both groups, which, if you think about the efficacy of a serotonin reuptake inhibitor like Prozac or Celexa, we saw an equal and sometimes greater benefit than pharmaceutical drugs in a technique that we asked people to do just 3 times a day for 5 to 15 seconds. We also looked at anxiety, which of course is the focus of this podcast, and we saw a 25% reduction, which is just incredible considering, that there aren't very many good pharmaceuticals out there to really, give people lasting relief of their anxiety without side effects. And this is a technique that just gets better and better with time. As you build your awe muscle, so to speak, the benefits get bigger. And we know that there is what's called a dose effect. So the more that you dose awe, the more benefit you get.
Yeah, I love what you're saying here. This is really interesting, and I want to get into, then how you do this, because mindfulness, as you say, is not easy in our busy world. But you're talking 5 to 15 seconds. So, and you've mentioned the AWE method several times. So tell us what that stands for, and then walk us through how we do this.
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to do that. So, the AWE method is a 3-step part technique, and it's based upon the word awe, A-W-E. It's an acronym. And so I'm going to be a little mindful, because I know for myself, when I listen to podcasts, I'm usually driving my car. So I don't want people to have an epiphany and then have an accident because they've sort of shifted their level of consciousness. But the idea behind our work is that when you practice the AWE method, it raises your level of consciousness into what we call spacious consciousness. And in our book, we have a model of a 3-step level of consciousness model, and we go into great detail in the book. And plus, we have 30 extended AWE practices in our book as well. So the AWE method is really the training wheels to get you into some initial states of awe to start to build your AWE muscle. So here's the technique. So A stands for attention. And so what we're asking you to do is to bring your full, undivided attention to something you value, appreciate, or find amazing. So right now we're having our interview, and I can see you guys on the screen, and I can have an awe moment looking at Chester, because he is so well color coordinated. And I've never seen such cool glasses. So I'm really bringing my full attention to his awesome glasses. And my attention is fully there. I'm not thinking about the errands I have to run later today. And we can all do that for 5 to 15 seconds. The W stands for wait. And so we're taking the moment to just really be with what we brought our attention to. I think of it as letting ourselves marinate in that experience. And it can be just a cycle of a breath. And then the E stands for a deep exhale. And when we take that deep exhale, we're stimulating what is called the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is the master computer of our autonomic nervous system. And it creates a state of rest and relaxation known as the parasympathetic nervous system, and it slows our heart rate down. It changes our heart rate variability. It changes our blood pressure and other types of biochemistry to really bring us to the present moment and bring us to a state of rest and healing. And then the E also stands for expand. So you're letting that moment really fill you up. You're creating that sense of vastness within yourself. And it's often in that moment is when you start to have those chills, those tingles that happen. And so what's really important to know is that when we did our research and what we've learned from teaching this to hundreds and hundreds of people is that people have a spectrum of awe that they experience. So sometimes when you have an awe moment, it's very subtle. You'll feel just a subtle shift of your awareness. Maybe colors look a little brighter. Your eyes widen. Sometimes you might feel a little bit of tingle in your body. You feel hyper aware as though you sort of stepped out and then you're the observer of a moment. It's kind of a really unique experience. And then all the way to the far end of the spectrum is what we call an orgasm, where maybe your whole body tingles and you maybe even cry because you're so filled with so much appreciation of that awe moment.
An orgasm. You're having way too much fun with the word awe here, Michael. No doubt. As you're talking, I'm just thinking to myself, it's just kind of one of those moments. Hey, you say you've taught this to hundreds and hundreds of people. Can you give us a real life example of someone who came in that was really, stressed, anxious, and so on? You taught it to them and had success. I mean, you can change the names to, protect any identities, but can you give us a real example of how that worked?
Yeah, sure. We have a number of stories that we share in our book of real life examples. And I think it's really important that what you're bringing up, Chester, is that awe can be accessed even in times of strife. This is not an emotion that just happens when we're feeling good and happy in our lives. But when we're anxious, you might not be able to stop your anxiety in that moment by saying, anxiety stop, or doing different techniques to stop your anxiety. But you can always access awe, even in a state of anxiety. And the beautiful thing is that these awe moments reset our nervous system. And so it's for most of my patients that I've shared this with, it profoundly changes their experience of their chronic pain as a pain specialist. I mean, this is a huge technique. One of the patients I can tell you about, talk about in our story, is someone who was enrolled in our study, and he was diagnosed with blood cancer and was undergoing a bone marrow transplant, and used the awe technique to make his experience while the 3 weeks in the solitary confinement of being in his room by himself, to not feel lonely, to feel connected. He actually created what he called a wall of awe. So he put pictures up on his hospital wall in the room and was just filled with awe. And he just told us how much it changed his whole experience. What's beautiful about the emotion of awe is that it's this big collection of positive things that come from it. It's a pro-social emotion, which means that it cultivates within us a sense of gratitude, connection, compassion. And we also know from our particular research that it decreases loneliness, decreases anxiety, depression. It also decreases burnout, which was the focus of one of our studies on the 200 physicians and nurses. And it cultivates a sense of well-being and improvement of overall health conditions.
This is just terrific. I love that you're giving us practical things we can take away right now, Michael. So how do people learn a little bit more about your work? Where would you point them?
Sure. Well, they should definitely check out our book. It's The Power of Awe that just was published by Hachette. And we have a website called thepowerofawe.com, the same title of our book. And we are on social media. What's really neat on our website is we do share a number of free practices, meditations, and resources that are available. We have a section of our page called the Moment of Awe, where you can actually post your moment of awe or read other people's moments of awe. And one of the really cool things about awe is that when you share awe with other people, you inspire awe with them. And I would recommend everyone give this a try. When you sit down for dinner tonight, maybe check in with people and say, hey, did you have a moment of awe today? And to share your awe with each other. And what's so cool is when you share awe with others, you inspire awe in them, and then they inspire awe back to you.
And that's great. And the kids are going to go, oh, Dad. But after a while, they're going to get into this routine. It's going to be part of of what they do, which is great.
Well, I think kids are actually, we lost our ability to see the world in wonder and awe from our childhoods. They're just awe machines. And
I think I must be thinking of teenagers then.
They actually love this practice.
That's great.
But I would agree. I think teenagers are sort of ready to shut down that awe lens.
Hey, let's talk about the workplace. There's anxiety at work. So, and a lot of people who are listening are leaders or, they're running teams. So how can they use this awe method to build a better workplace if they're over people? Again, we're all busy, we're all stressed, etc.
Yeah, this is really great. So myself and Jake were really passionate about bringing this into the workplace. And I'm already doing trainings in the healthcare arena to groups, to teams and hospital organizations on how to integrate this into the workplace. And what's really beautiful and powerful about this work is it's so simple, and yet the benefits are profound. If you can imagine, let's say in healthcare, if your staff that are rooming patients, or the back office people that are talking to patients, or the doctors and nurses that are caring for the patients, if they just had a moment of awe between each patient care interaction that took 10 to 15 seconds, they come into the room with their nervous system reset and completely refreshed. This is a profoundly powerful technique to decrease burnout for workers and to decrease anxiety. And it is so simple. And what we're doing at where I work and what I've integrated is, when I have my huddle in the morning with my team, we share moments of awe. And then I've been cultivating us having awe moments between each patient care interaction so that we can really, reset our systems. And it's so important because what happens otherwise is we cling on to these residues from each interaction. And as a pain management doctor, my patients are really suffering and they're really sometimes quite challenging to take care of. And if I don't reset myself in between each interaction, I'm carrying on a lot of this residue into the next visit, and I might not be as focused and as attentive to care for the patient that I'm seeing next. I think it's a wonderful way of combating what they call compassion fatigue and really helping with decreasing burnout and anxiety in the workplace.
And you can do all that in 5 to 15 seconds.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a profound change in your level of consciousness. We have there's a bigger backstory that we're not going to have time to talk about today, but there's a whole section in our book, which is really the cornerstone of Jake and his wife Hannah's work. They lead a spiritual community called Live Conscious. And he spent years really perfecting this model, but he calls it the 3 levels of consciousness. And we're all sort of living in this base level of consciousness all the time where we're not really aware. He calls it safety consciousness. And what awe does is it takes us to a heightened state of consciousness and resets our nervous system so that we can then come back to the same set of problems, the stressors that we're facing, but seeing them in a completely new lens. And so we're not reactive in the same way that we were before. It's really a powerful model, and it works. We know that's the beauty of what we're doing here is we have the results of hundreds and hundreds of patients and participants in our studies where we know that this is a truly powerful and effective technique that helps people with burnout, anxiety, depression, and other chronic health conditions like chronic pain. Wow.
Okay, so that was the workplace. So let's bring this back into real life. The world is getting more and more divided. People are more and more angry. I mean, we're starting to define each other by how we voted
Right.
and where we show up. So how do we bring this into our personal lives to help us be more patient, more helpful?
Well, one of the things that I'm really excited about, Chester, and I think this is where Jake and I are most passionate about our work, is that we see how this work is going to be perhaps one of the solutions to these big social ills that we're seeing. And our country in the United States, we are actually one of perhaps the top awe-starved culture. We've lost a sense of awe and wonder. And what we know from research at UC Berkeley is that the emotion of awe cultivates a sense of openness and acceptance of other people's views and perspectives. What awe does is, as a pro-social emotion, is that it helps decrease our sense of ego identity. So we're less attached to our fixed ideas, and we're more open and excited to see other people's ways in which they see and view the world. So it creates a sense of tolerance. It creates connection. Awe is such a crucial emotion. It's really one of the parts of what makes us a human species. And so by cultivating these brief moments of awe throughout our day, because we can't all visit these profound, extraordinary awe places on a daily basis, but by building what we call the awe muscle and having these ordinary moments of awe on a daily basis, we begin to change our brain and our chemistry and our bodies as well. I mean, one of the things that's so amazing about the emotion of awe is that it was the only positive emotion in some of the research that's been done that lowers inflammatory levels in our blood, that is resulting in heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and even depression. So what we're really excited about is that this work will change the trajectory of the planet. I mean, if you think about it, if we cultivate awe and we are in wonder of different cultures and different languages, we're not going to kill each other just because we might have a little bit of a different ideology, or we use a different word to describe God, or we speak different languages or dress differently. I mean, I'm in awe of diversity. I mean, that's what makes us beautiful, is our diversity. And likewise, we're not going to want to destroy the planet and these beautiful species that have evolved over hundreds of millions of years when we're in awe of the beauty of what the natural world has to offer. So I think that by us building a global community of awe, that we're going to see hopefully some real positive changes in how we are treating each other. Everything changes when you change your level of consciousness. And I think the problem is, there's the Einstein quote, if you have to change the way you see things to really make the change to happen. And I think what the awe emotion does is it takes us to the heightened level of consciousness so we can start to see the world and the problems we're facing in a new light.
Well, you've sold me. I'm going to try this. I'm committing. I don't know if you're going to do it. I'm going to commit. I'll do this for a week and do it every day. And because I love the way you're coming from here. Look, and Mike, you're a busy guy. Like you're teaching at Berkeley's Greater Good Science Center. You're a pain management physician. You do meditation. You do yoga, etc. You're a busy fella. So how do you keep your mental health strong? I'd love to hear your self-care tactics that you walk through and you go through each day.
Well, you just talked about walks. I take what I call awe walks. I have to walk my dog down to the park twice a day, and it's just a routine that I get to share with my dog. And I use those 4 to 5 minutes that it takes to get down to the park to really open my eyes to the awe and the beauty. For many people, it just sort of be a routine where you get on your phone or your mind is racing. You're in that default mode network in the brain. And so I use these opportunities on each walk is just to look with new, fresh eyes to see what beauty I can find and what awe moments there are to appreciate in the leaves of the trees, how they change with the seasons, the clouds in the sky, the smell of the salty air, because I live about 1.5 blocks from the beach. There's all these things that I can be in awe of. I'm in awe of my dog. She's such an incredible Australian shepherd. It's beautiful, beautiful creature. But it's about what I would say to help people in building this practice. I recommend habit stacking, which basically means if you drink coffee every morning, use that practice of making a cup of coffee to have some moments of awe. I mean, it's a wonderful way to begin your day. So when you open that package of coffee, you can take a big whiff and smell the aroma and have an awe moment. Think about where those coffee beans came from. Think about the people that grew that coffee. Think about the sun that brought light from 100 million miles away and travels to this planet to create the conditions to grow these incredible beings that bring us so much joy and energy and focus.
Will this work with my Diet Pepsi? I'm just wondering.
You can think about the chemicals and that they put in the factory.
And the plastic bottle that'll
And the plastic bottle.
Okay, now I'm feeling guilty. Okay.
Yeah. The thing is, I think, Adrian, if you just went to regular strength Pepsi, things would get a lot better.
Yeah, you might have some more awe with regular Pepsi.
What a great discussion. And what a great reminder just to be curious as well about your environment. And like you say, curious about your dog and the leaves. And as you go through, I really appreciate your take on awe moments and stacking habits. I'm a big fan of stacking habits as well. Hey, great discussion. We're at the end of our time here. It's really flown by as we knew it would. If you had one or two things you wanted people to take away from this conversation, what might those be?
Sure. I'd recommend them coming to visit our website, thepowerofawe.com, and we have a lot of resources there that are free, and we'd love to share those with you. And I would recommend committing to a 21-day practice, and that's actually the duration of what it took to teach the patients in our studies. 21 days to develop a regular practice of awe, to build your awe muscle, and to also remember that this is really interesting, but this practice doesn't take effort. What's beautiful about the awe method compared to regular mindfulness techniques that take a lot of effort and focus and concentration is that this can be done anywhere, anytime, any place. If you're at a red light, you can have a moment of awe. If you're in line at the airport in the TSA checkpoint and you're feeling frustrated, have an awe moment. There's so much awe. You can have awe moments just looking at the strangers and their behaviors and their faces, and awe is everywhere. So I just encourage you to open your eyes to see the world with childlike wonder and to experience awe in the new year.
Love that.
Well, thank you guys so much. This is such a wonderful conversation, and just love the work you're doing. I love your energy, and it was really a great time together. So I'd love to come back if you ever want to have another conversation on awe as we keep doing our research and discover new things.
Yeah, no, it's been a delight to have you on the show. Your energy is wonderful. Your take on life is great. And I really, as Adrian mentioned earlier, I love the practicality. It's 5 to 15 seconds, 3 times a day. I mean, as busy as we all are, we can find 5 to 15 seconds 3 times a day. So thanks so much for being on the show, Michael. It's really been a delight.
It's been great.
Thank you.
Adrian, what great energy. I hate to play on words, but I was in awe of his great energy and practicality. So I'm really curious. I know what my takeaways are. And you've already committed to do it for a week. So other than your commitment to be in awe for a week.
I made myself a little Post-it. See right there. I'm going to do it. Attention, wait, and then exhale. So I won't be as in awe of your shirt as he was. But, I mean, to each his own, Hey, what I loved was, first off, the sense of vastness. So, what is it that's going to, catch our attention? Because you're right. We walk through life sometimes. I remember, when I first started working downtown, I was walking along and this guy says to me, he says, "Can you hear the birds?" And I just stopped, some stranger, and he says, "Listen." And he was right. There were birds all up on the buildings singing their songs and stuff. And he says, nobody is paying attention to them. And I just thought, what a little moment of awe, and just to kind of see things in a new way. What he says, cognitive accommodation, which we're not very good at anymore in our world, of putting a new thought into our little brains.
Yeah, our friend Aisha Purcell has a great practice as you'll walk with her in New York City. I'll never forget, Heidi and I were walking with her. She said, "Stop. Let's just enjoy this moment." Mm-hmm. And I think that's what what Michael's getting to. I really appreciated that it was 5 to 15 seconds. We can say, I can't find 10 minutes to meditate. I can find 2 hours to watch a Marvel movie on my phone.
Exactly.
But I can't find 10 minutes to meditate.
Yeah.
The thing that he talked about is when you share awe, it multiplies. And we've seen that, isn't it fun when we're with little kids and they're so excited and we get excited and we, and so I really appreciated when he said, share your awe with others and how much that can impact.
Yeah, just what Aisha did with you, or what this guy, the stranger on the street, did with the birds. And I love that. And again, he says it doesn't have to be big moments. It doesn't have to be standing on the edge of the Grand Canyon or going to your favorite, rock concert, as he says, to have this moment. Like for you going to a Barry Manilow concert, or Neil Diamond, whatever would.
Both, by the way, in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It is interesting, those simple moments, like you said, with the birds, looking up at the sky. I think the idea there, one of my big takeaways, is to just pause.
Yeah.
Just literally take 15 seconds.
Yeah.
I love that he said he was in awe of his dog. I thought of you immediately with your dog, all the dogs you've had in your life. That dog is really amazing. And I think dogs in particular, they always seem, well, not always, when they're not biting you. I mean, they're always so happy. I love coming home to a dog because they're always like, he's back.
I know. My dog catches a Frisbee. He jumps up in the air. He's 4 feet in the air. He's catching a Frisbee. And it's just sort of like, oh, yeah, that's what he does. But no, it's amazing. Yeah.
I had a quick moment of awe earlier. I was, on a call with a friend, and he was teaching me a new principle and some coaching tips and so on. And our Zoom call kind of glitched. And he said, yeah, it did glitch, but think about it. It's kind of amazing that we're video chatting. I mean, even 10 years ago, you thought, that's technology. It'll never work. I'm going to fly to London tomorrow night. And you think, I'm going to be 30,000 feet in the air, going 600 miles an hour to London. I mean, that's ridiculous when you take a moment to think about the extraordinary awe that encapsulates.
Well, and I love too that kind of as he kind of got near the end is that look, he says, I'm in awe of diversity. I'm in awe of people who see things from a different perspective versus those darn guys. And so people will tell me, well, I hate that politician. It's like, oh yeah, why? Well, there's just, and they basically have nothing. They just don't like the person. And instead of, well, are you seeing anything from another's perspective? And so, really kind of, we got to build this awe muscle because it's going to make us better people. It's going to create a better society. So I love that. I thought, we had a lot to learn today.
Yeah. And lastly, for me, is he has the numbers to back it up. I mean, this is good, solid research, 300 patients, 200 doctors and nurses, and they could calibrate a 35% reduction in depression and anxiety. And I love when you can say, yeah, that makes sense. I'm sure it would make me feel good. And then give me the case studies that says, and here's the reduction we saw. So I thought it was wonderful. Well, I am always in awe of our wonderful team that supports this podcast. Brent Klein, who makes us sound great, can't make us look any better. It's a podcast, but we sound great. And Christy Lawrence, who finds us these amazing guests, and of course for all of you that tune in and give us 35 to 45 minutes of your time every week. We love that, don't we?
We do. Hey, if you like the podcast, please share it. We'd also love you to visit thecultureworks.com for some free resources. First chapter of Anxiety at Work for free. Can't beat that. And we love speaking to audiences around the world, virtually or in person, on the topics of culture, teamwork, resilience, wellness. So give us a call. We'd love to talk to you about your event.
Yeah, and like Michael, we've got a book called Anxiety at Work. It's available digitally. It's on Audible, and of course at fine bookstores everywhere. Buy a copy and share it with a friend. Well, Adrian, another great week, another great guest. I am in awe of the work that we get to do. It really is happy and positive, isn't it?
It is. So thanks, Jess, and thanks everybody for listening in. Until next time, we wish you the best of mental health.